What are you most afraid of, Chris? What do you fear the most? What is your deepest... Maybe you shouldn't say this publicly, but...
It's not anything weird like a...
Well, I'm not saying it's weird, but
I'm saying I don't have like a phobia or like something
against
that...
you, you know? It's clowns, isn't it?
It's not clowns. That's John Hughes.
I know it's John Hughes.
That's John Hughes. And Finley hates clowns because Jess let her watch the first 5 minutes of It.
They're easy to hate.
Man, I don't have like a weird fear. I think
I'm not saying like a weird fear. I'm saying, what do you fear?
I think going back to being a little kid, I had these weird fears of thinking about nothingness.
Cool.
Like, but
the abyss.
Just the
slow march of time into blackness.
Just the thought of like, what if this is it? Like we die and it's just, and I get it that you'd be like, well, then you wouldn't know. But that's a really, I don't know if I'd call it a fear, but as much of like, when I was little, it would be like at times I would like purposely take myself there, and it's almost anxiety provoking. It's weird to think that like that we invest. I mean, at that point, you're probably like 10 years of your life, but in decades of like relationships and experiences, and it's like I don't know. When you really stop and think about that kind of stuff, like
little nihilism coming out.
Regardless of what you believe, it's freaky.
Yeah,
that's my answer.
I thought you were going to say like snakes or something, but
no, but Finley and Jess both want a snake, and I'm like, cool. Let me know what your new address is. Like, I don't want a snake in our house. I'm not scared of snakes. I'm not scared of cats. I don't want a cat in our house. I love. I don't know what I'm trying to think of the name, like the, I guess the breed of cats, but there's these really big ones. Like when I lived with Scott, his name was Socks, but it was, I think, Bengal.
Yeah.
They're huge.
And they have like big teeth, big sharp teeth.
Dude, I have scars from it.
Yeah.
They're huge. And like those things are awesome. And like, I mean, he had a Rottweiler that was somewhere in the ballpark of 100 pounds, maybe even a little bit more. And this cat would like hide, and it would just like get real low and like wait, and it would jump out, and it could literally like, it would catch the dog off guard. It's not that it was even close to 100 pounds, but it would be able to like knock the dog over with its power and speed. And they're awesome. But I would never get one of those either because they're disgusting. You need to have a litter box, and a cat that big and that like stinks. It's like it had its own bathroom because no one else wanted to go anywhere near that bathroom, right? And I don't want a snake because it's just going to sit in a cage, or I don't know, a tank.
Yeah.
And
terrarium.
And go to the bath. It's just, I don't know. What's the point? Like, why?
Some people like to get them out and play with them and stuff.
Just why do you guys want? And then our dogs are going to eat it. You know what I mean? Or
maybe.
I'm not scared of them, but I have absolutely no interest in having one.
I don't desire to have a reptile either. I don't get it. I don't like it. I like things that seem to want to connect with you.
Yeah.
A snake doesn't care if you live or die.
Yeah, that's why dogs are the best.
And dogs are awesome. Yeah. One of my high school football coaches was terrified of snakes, and we used to do this every spring before Memorial Day. We would do this cemetery cleanup for like this old cemetery because there was like a lot of veterans from different wars in it, and so the grass would be seriously like fucking waist high. And so I would go around and catch snakes and like chase him with them. And I chased him the whole way to his car. Like he wouldn't get out of his truck, and I just kept throwing snakes on his windshield. He wouldn't get out of his truck for the rest of the day. That was funny to me.
What, like garter snakes? Like
garter snakes. Yeah. It was fun.
They're still freaky. That was like growing up. Our yard, like in the I don't know, spring, summer, whatever, just box turtles and garter snakes. Like you just go find them all the time.
I saw something the other day in Culpeper. I don't know what it was. We were leaving the farm where Matt and I shoot, and I swear to God, it looked like a tortoise walking across the field. Like it was like lumbering and slow like a turtle, and it was huge. I was like, we don't have turtles.
It's a snapping turtle.
out walking across the land.
They'll
really?
go walk across the land. Yeah,
It had to have been a snapping turtle. Yeah.
guaranteed.
It was huge because there was like I was like, there's no ponds around here. There
I
was,
mean,
like,
there's water somewhere.
well, yeah, but it's like wasn't close. I was like, that's got to be a goddamn snapping turtle.
I'll bet you money. The pond that is across the street from where you live,
Yeah,
go walk around that thing.
big snapping turtles in
Dude,
there.
bigger than like those industrial sized trash can lids. Huge. Yeah.
There's got to be a fair amount of fish in there then too. That's what they eat.
They'll grab geese.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. So
but like, there's got to be some fish.
I would imagine. Yeah.
But that thing is so gross. Like I wouldn't eat the fish out of there.
No, I wouldn't. I don't.
I think there's poop in there.
I don't know if you're allowed to. What do you mean? There's poop in there?
There's got to be poop or
Like
something.
goose poop.
There's
Every
a-
pond has goose poop in
There's
it.
kind of poop in there. Some kind of poop.
I don't know if you're allowed to fish in there, but yeah,
Oh,
I
I've done
used
it.
to.
I walked over when I first moved over there. I walked over
Really?
and fished in there. Yeah.
I used to walk around that thing all the time, and like when Finley was really little, I'd be like, let's go see the turtles, and like, dude, they're
The
massive.
turtles.
You know where else you can go? It's so weird that we're talking about turtles, like, but where else you can go see huge turtles is the lake that's pond lake. I don't know, the one that's right by Sweetwater.
Oh yeah.
If you follow the sidewalk and go, there's like concrete steps at the one side of it. Someone feeds them. They come swimming from every direction. There's huge ones in there too, but they come up to you.
When we lived on base in Dahlgren, my dad was in the Navy. We me and all the other kids on the base. Well, the kids I was friends with, I don't know. We made big nets, and like we had our parents drill the nets out so we could attach like big long like poles to them, like I don't know, like little 2x2 inch poles, so we could try to catch so we could net snapping turtles.
What are you gonna do with them?
Don't know, but we did it. I don't remember.
Did you catch them?
Oh yeah, we would catch them
man.
because they'd be right on the bank, and we'd net them.
They're nasty.
And I mean, like, so I finished third grade there, and then we moved back to Pennsylvania. So like, I wasn't a big kid, and we're running around netting snapping turtles like idiots.
Yeah, they're nasty.
Yeah.
I've seen when we're fishing up I think it was in Canada or Maine. Doesn't matter. I think it was Canada though. Yeah, because that's where we would keep most of the fishing we do is all catch and release. But Canada, at least one night. I mean,
Fish
it's like
fry.
you catch until you lose count up there. It's freaking awesome. But if you have a stringer over the side of the boat,
They'll come get them.
goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah, they will, and so will
Pike and stuff.
pike, and yeah. But snapping turtles will come up and take them. I've had snapping turtle hit a spinnerbait before.
Really?
So yeah.
That doesn't surprise me.
Like we can cut that off, but then I forget. I remember. I think you fished at this lake with my dad. Is it Sweet Arrow or
Yeah.
Arrow?
Yeah, I fished there with your dad.
Yeah. And I remember the one time I got real mad because I had on like a brand new lure, real expensive, and I'm like, what do I do? Like a snapping turtle had it, and I remember my dad being like, just cut it off, whatever. And I was like, I don't want to cut off. I want to get it. And he wound up like grabbing it, just going like this, and it snapped. I was like,
Could have killed the snapping turtle and ate it. I don't know if they're any good. A lot of turtles are good.
I have no idea.
A lot of people eat turtles. I want to gig frogs. I mean, I want to try that. I've been thinking about it for years. You gig them.
What does that mean?
Like you make a gig, and then you gig them. It's like a long trident, like with a small trident but long, and you shine a spotlight on the frogs at night, and you stick them.
Interesting.
And then you eat their legs.
I don't know. Have I had frog legs?
Everybody says
frog legs.
Have I had frog legs? Where are you from? Are you from Louisiana?
I have.
Everybody says they're good. You just like saute them in some butter, and it's been like my goal for the past 6 summers, and I haven't done it yet. So
Would you put like ketchup and mayo on them?
God damn it, Chris. No.
Context. Todd hates condiments.
I don't hate all condiments.
Most condiments. I was once at like a crappy Chili's or something. We were on a road trip, and I don't remember where we were. I feel like it was just like it wasn't a Chili's, but it was like that type of a place. And we're super hungry, and our food finally comes, and Todd was almost in tears because he goes, "Is this mayonnaise? Is this smell it?" I was like, "Dude, it's
almost in tears.
He was in tears. No, you're right. You were in tears.
Oh, okay.
He was like freaking out over mayonnaise. So
I hate it. Mayonnaise, mustard, and ketchup. I hate all of them. I like hot sauce. I like barbecue sauce. I don't like any of those 3. Keep them to yourself. Don't put them near me.
proving my point.
One of the times in, I'm not proving. You're not proving. I didn't cry.
You hate
Chris.
condiments.
I do hate condiments. in college, we would go to the calf, you know, and we would throw our ID down to like save our table, right? And I mistakenly let it slip to my teammates that I hate ketchup. And so a lot of times I had to start using something else to save my seat, because I would leave my ID down there and they would put a dab of ketchup on the table and slap my ID down on top of it.
And that would like make you nauseous? Like,
I would just be like, no, it wouldn't make me, I just hate it. I just hate ketchup. And I'd be like, God damn it, you know, and I had to wipe all this ketchup off, and I don't like it. Never have.
I don't get it. Ranch.
I like ranch flavored things. I like ranch, like
ranch. Ranch is flavored like ranch.
if you put like the ranch powder on stuff, I like that.
So it's a consistency thing for
The
you?
ranch is weird feeling to me. So no, I'm not a big, no, I like the flavor, but not like ranch dressing.
All right.
I don't feel like I need to explain myself to you. You know,
You don't need to, but I think
I am who I am. You know,
think people probably have a lot of questions, and I'm trying to
I don't think so.
put those to rest before we move
I
on
like
to the
hot
actual
sauce.
topic of the day.
I like hot sauce a lot. I like different hot sauces, many various hot sauces, different kinds, different applications, right? You know, like Frank's for wings, stuff like that. I like a little Crystal, I like a little Texas Pete on my eggs, you know, stuff like that.
Last sidebar on hot sauce. You just give me a flashback to Rob Telastis bringing in some type of hot sauce. I forget what it was, into the gym.
No, it was
Powder.
Powder. It was like seasoning.
Yes, and
it was like Carolina Reaper.
And Jeff Smith just being like, "Give me that," and throwing it in his
A
mouth.
spoonful.
A
right?
spoonful
Yeah.
in his mouth, and permanently destroying our turf because he freaked out. And then what did I go get? Like, I don't know what we have. We have yogurt.
I wasn't there.
And I ran to the office and got him yogurt. And he's like, give it to me. So like, to get it to him faster,
What did you do?
I threw the yogurt, and
he went,
and he was so desperate to try and get it, he went like this.
Here's the thing, Chris.
And it blew up.
He can't catch under the best of
True.
circumstances.
True.
So why,
True.
I feel like this is actually your fault.
But if we're gonna talk about hot things, I always get flashbacks to Jeff absolutely dying, and Rob just being like, "Why would you do that?
Why would you do that? Fair enough. That's because it's Jeff.
Terrible."
What did you want to talk to me about today? You had some personal questions that you wanted to ask me.
No, we're not.
Because I'll give you answers. I'll give you juicy answers. I'll give you the answers that people want to hear. You know, people want to know stuff about me, Chris.
Sounds like you want to talk about something. What do you want to?
No, I don't actually want to talk about anything. I'm just being silly.
We're gonna talk about.
Why are you stroking your bottle like that? That was
because
odd.
there's like water running off it. No one can see what I'm doing, so now they have questions, and it's not like you're making it out to be. So I was doing this,
But it was
water.
like you didn't do it like that.
There was what? How did I do it?
You went like this. You went.
Nah, okay, there was a droplet of water running down it.
You caressed
Okay.
your bottle.
We're gonna talk about, I guess, what strength methods. Would that be?
Sure, if you want to. What do you want to know? Ask me anything. I'll tell you.
So here's, I don't remember if you said this on a previous podcast, or if I'm making this up.
Option B.
Is there, in your mind, is what I'm about to say one and the same? Or is there a difference between muscular endurance and strength endurance?
I think so. Yeah, I think there is a difference.
How?
Well, I think
Did you say this the other day?
I've written about this before.
Okay.
I think there's a difference between muscular endurance and strength endurance. I mean, muscular endurance, I think, is more of a localized thing, where it's like you literally create, like a localized adaptation in the muscles, where it's like more contractility over time with repeated effort, right? And it's like better at clearing. Like, I'm trying not to like go too sciencey.
It's okay.
So just like it's better at just it's a localized adaptation. So actually in the muscles, where I think strength endurance is more of a global systemic thing from your nervous system, where you're able to recover and repeat efforts over time. So I think there's a muscular endurance component to that. But like if you look at how you build strength endurance to produce strength over time, you increase volume with lower sets, lower reps per set. Whereas like muscular
stress.
Yeah, like a eustress. Whereas like muscular endurance,
High reps.
you're gonna have higher reps, or something which more doesn't necessarily have to be high reps, but there's more time under tension. And so like a tempo strength would be a localized muscular endurance method, where I think like eustress training would be more of a strength endurance method. And then high intensity continuous training, somewhat in between. Whereas like it's localized because you're affecting the aerobic qualities of your fast twitch muscles so that they have more endurance. So it's more of a localized thing. So, and then like tempo training, the point is to make your slow twitch muscle fibers bigger and enhance their function, so that their contractility lasts longer, but also so that you're better at, so you're better at clearing waste products and putting in the mechanisms of aerobic metabolism into your slow twitch muscle fibers. So I think they're different. I think they're both trainable, but you have to do different things to train them.
So reason it wasn't something that this person said, and I have no idea what the program was like, but there is someone, I think you've seen some of his stuff, Jason Brown.
Yeah, I know who he is. Nice beard.
And great beard.
Yeah, very nice beard.
And
good hair.
He does this series where he will, which I think is funny.
Tear apart people's
hilarious.
programs.
Well, or he'll compliment them. But he will go by, if you have an online training program, he'll pay for access to your program. He'll do your program, or at least he'll like look at it, and he'll give his like program reviews, and good, bad, different. I think mostly it's gonna be good or bad. I don't know how you'd be indifferent on it, but I saw one recently where I didn't see the program, so I have zero context. But basically, he was saying like, you know, this program would be good at making you tired, and he was saying what it was, and it did sound like hot trash. But it got me thinking, because like I've looked at his program design playbook, his like product. I've bought it, and it's good, but I'm like, I almost feel like his stuff is very
does like a lot of conjugate stuff.
Yes, he? Yes. So like in the way that he approaches things, I think that he looks at things as like dynamic effort, repeated effort, etc. Right, and then he's also very influenced by like Joel Jameson. So then on the conditioning side, he'll talk about all of the stuff that Joel talks about in Ultimate Conditioning for MMA or whatever. But it was at one point he put out a post of like, what's everyone's go-to like programming resources, like books, whatever. And I was shocked. I'm looking, and which I guess it's a very niche thing, but niche thing, but I feel like, if you're in like at all care about like the performance side of training, you should be looking at building the elite.
The resources are great.
I don't know of anyone else that's writing about like the special. I mean, Joel does, but I just like the way they write about the specialized strength training methods.
Well, yeah.
And so it just got me thinking of like, what if he reviewed one of our programs? And it's like, without context, you might look at a day like today, or well, I'm sorry, I'm saying today because I'm a day behind, but our total rep training, or you might look at a eustress. I don't know if he would know what eustress is. You might look at, we're not doing them this coming month as of now, the ladders and stuff like that. Might be like, you might look at that without context and be like, well, this just seems to be fatigue producing. Anyone could make you tired. It's like, but there's a reason for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I thought it'd be cool today to go through and kind of unpack the different types of strength training. You just touched on, you mentioned tempo training, eustress training. What else did you talk about there? There's another one. I feel like there was one other thing that you mentioned.
No,
just high volume.
Just higher volume training.
So if we just kind of go through and define some of these different types of training and like what they're for.
Sure. Well, I think you have to start with those two different goals. So like, are you trying to build strength, or are you trying to, like the different goals would be strength, hypertrophy, and then muscular endurance would be like the three easiest categories to kind of break it down into for resistance training. So we'll just put that all under resistance training. And then when it comes to strength training, actual strength training, you would look at extensive methods and intensive methods. And so extensive method, well, let's do intensive first. Intensive would be like actually raising your strength ceiling. So directly just improving your maximal or relative strength. So in the case of Mr. Jason Brown, we would look at something like, that would be max effort training under the conjugate system, which I think the conjugate system's okay. I mean, I don't know. I did it for a long fucking time. It's not, I don't know. It's okay. Yeah. It's just a means of classification. And I think that it puts too much emphasis on maximal strength. So, anyway, so you'd have intensive methods, which would be like, just essentially trying to increase the amount of weight that you lift and staying in the 1 to 5 rep range and keeping your reps in reserve relatively low, like somewhere between 1 and 3 to 4 reps in reserve, something like that. And then you have intensive methods, which would be to improve your strength endurance. So the way that you display strength over time. And so you would put things like eustress training and high intensity continuous training under extensive methods because,
Did you see? I was going to say, I think you just corrected yourself. What you're talking about now is extensive.
Extensive,
methods.
Yeah. So you're able to produce strength over time with repeated effort, right? So it's not going to be necessarily as intense as intensive methods, but you'll take that the maximal or relative strength that you have. So maximal strength is like regardless of your weight, your relative strength is how much strength you can produce relative to how much you weigh, and then you're able to extend that over time, and it trains you to do that, which is I think far more useful than just being really strong, so and so though that would break down into those. And then you have just like what you would call under the conjugate system repeated effort, right, or repetitive, whatever they call it anymore, and or just like muscular endurance type training. So just higher volume, higher rep, and there's different ways to do that. Like, so really the goal is to put a lot of volume into your muscles so they fatigue. Yep. And then your slow twitch muscles have to do a lot of work is essentially it. And then doing that in such a way that you affect the muscles locally and globally depending on your goal. So if it's like, if you want more muscular endurance, I guess both could be true, but like if you really want hypertrophy, you're going to focus way more on like localized stuff. So like you're going to do more, I don't know, let's say you want big pecs. You're going to do more stuff that just recruit your pecs, and you're going to do a lot of volume with it, and you're going to get the biggest stretch that you possibly can. So you create muscle damage and you make your muscles bigger. So, but then if you're just like for fitness and for like global muscular endurance, you would do things with bigger movement patterns. So like squatting, push-ups, pull-ups, deadlifts, lunges, things like that. And there's an application for doing it with smaller movement patterns too. But so essentially that's what you do. And then you just look at what method you want to use based on what outcome you're trying to produce.
So I think you glossed over a few things there, but so if you were to give like, say 3 to 4 examples of intensive methods, extensive methods, and what did you call the third category? Muscular endurance.
Yeah, extensive. Intensive and extensive are just, or we use that for power training too. So it's like there's intensive methods and there's strength training. Like, so intensive would be I'm trying to jump higher, and extensive would be like I'm trying to be able to jump more.
But I'm saying in terms of like.
No, I get what you're saying.
Okay.
So I'm like just trying to walk backwards. So intensive method would be like submaximal strength, submaximal effort, which would be like most of what our strength training is. So it's like doing sets of 3 to 5 reps with 2 to 4 reps in reserve. So the submaximal effort would be, which where most people should train with their intensive strength methods. And then there's there's maximal effort, which would be like you literally do work to a maximal effort lift and then rotate those lifts more frequently to trick your nervous system or whatever. But the only time I've ever seen that fucking work is if you're not very strong yet. You do it for very short periods of time, or you take a lot of fucking steroids. And that's where it's like, you know, Louis Simmons did a ton for strength training, and like I did West Side and all that stuff for the longest time, but it's like like when you're on gear, you can handle a lot of maximal training, you know, but I think for most people it doesn't work, and I don't think you have to do it. But those would be really the only two that, I mean, I don't know where you would put dynamic effort, because essentially, I mean, you'd be trying to lift more weight. I guess it would be an intensive method, but so essentially dynamic effort, you would do like 8 sets of 3 with like 50% of your 1 rep max, and put some kind of accommodating resistance on the bar so you can move fast through the whole range of motion. Because, for example, let's say you had 50% of your 1 rep deadlift max on the bar, and you move it as fast as you can, you're going to decelerate towards the top of the movement. You're going to put the brakes on because the weight's so light. But if you add accommodating resistance, you're able to maintain that speed through the whole movement, so you actually get faster through the whole movement. So that's what was the point of...
So if someone's like, what does that mean? Like, so attaching bands to the bar so that
or chains.
Bands or chains. So as you're getting towards the top of the deadlift, there's
still
actually
tension.
more weight.
Yeah. And so that way you learn to accelerate through the whole movement instead of just like having the brakes on at the top. And so that coincides with your max effort lift, because it gives you the chance to train the movement pattern, accelerate through the whole movement, and essentially affect your nervous system with another training day per week, instead of trying to do heavier max effort work twice per week, which you're not going to recover from, was essentially the goal of it. So I guess that would also be technically an intensive training method. And then extensive, really the only two that we use are eustress training and high intensity continuous training. I'm trying to think of what some of the other ones might be right now, but that's all we really use. So
there's different variations of eustress training, but
yeah,
some of the old like Sadiv sets.
Right. And I was talking with Jordan Wilcher the other day about some of this stuff. And like, I remember back when I lived in Connecticut and was working at Ramphone Training Systems, like Scott and I would have, this was brutal. We would have kids like finish their strength sessions, like lacrosse players, soccer players and stuff, finish their strength sessions with like 20 minutes of high intensity continuous walking lunges with a weight vest on. And these kids were monsters.
Like how many seconds?
The same, like
4?
3 to 4. Yeah. And they would crush them.
It's awesome, but
it was also like, I wouldn't do that now because of like how much eccentric stress there is on that. Because you have to drop into the lunge, slow yourself down, and come back up. Like, that's why I step ups and stuff like that. If you're going to do that kind of volume, I don't use lunges really anymore, or the sled. The sled's good for it too, but those are like the extensive. And so really what we're doing, so high intensity continuous training is kind of like one of those hybrids between that and muscular endurance, because you still use relatively heavy weight in most circumstances. So you're still accessing your strength over time. And what it also does is it trains your fast twitch muscle fibers aerobically. So it increases their endurance. So then you have access to your strength for over a longer time with more repeated efforts. And so that's why it works. So it's kind of a go-between for those things, because it's affecting the musculature. Affecting. I'm going to say it one more time. Affecting. It's affecting the local musculature so that your systemic strength you can still access it for longer. So, and those are really the two extensive methods that we use. And then everything else, like the muscular endurance, like there's a bunch of different ways to do that, and it's really just how do you want to add the stress and like put a bunch of volume onto a muscle. Because really, like if you look at tempo strength training works because what you do is you keep the muscle under tension for a long and extended period of time, and then you go with incomplete rest. And so that creates hypoxia, localized hypoxia in your muscles. So they're not getting enough oxygen, and it makes the slow twitch muscle fibers grow so that they have the resources to deal with a hypoxic condition. And then that allows you to put more stuff for like endurance in there. So like when you go out and do your endurance sessions, like there's more space for mitochondria and things like that are what you need for endurance.
So then like the total rep
It's just
the
high
ladders.
volume training.
It's
just
all,
different
it all
ways
falls
to
under
add.
that.
Like I think it's muscular endurance training, because, I mean, there's also, truth be told, there's a aerobic aspect to that too, and like anaerobic aspect of endurance to that too, because you're getting your heart rate up for some of those sets, like 3 to 5 minutes. It's almost like weightlifting lactate threshold type training. So, which is important because, like we talked about before, being able to clear lactate and recycle it so that it doesn't just sit in your muscles, which it doesn't do for long periods of time. We covered that, but so that you can use it increases your endurance. So, but I think it's anything like outside of that, like higher volume work, it's really like, it's just all muscular endurance work is the way I look at it, and you're just really literally just trying to create fatigue.
Yeah.
So
part of why I was like, this is topical, like we can talk about this, is because, like, we'll just say, like, on the tactical side of things, like someone had mentioned, essentially, like when it comes to like looking at a selection prep program, like, oh, you guys have a lot of lifting in your program, and it's like, yeah, but like you look at the methods that are in there, and it's mostly extensive and muscular endurance based. There's not a whole lot of intensive, and it's like that's one of the most common things that I get whenever, like, someone will say, hey, like, I'm thinking about coming out for whatever selection, like, yeah, let's jump on a call and talk. And they'll speak in very general terms of like, well, I'm lifting X number of days a week. And whenever you're like, okay, well, what does that look like? Like, well, I'm just doing some stuff to get stronger. Okay, what are you doing to get stronger? And it's like, I think that there's just such a limited understanding of how you can use these things. And lifting doesn't equal lifting, doesn't equal lifting. You know what I mean?
No.
And yeah, it's like, I don't know what that means. When you say, I'm just, I'm lifting a few days a week, making sure I'm trying to, bring up my strength. Like, what does it look like? But then you realize, like, and I understandably, like, cause they're not going to be like as curious about this type of stuff like we are, and people that are like in this world. And it's like, it's just not really that well known. You know what I mean? And so you could look at it without knowing and being like, hang on, like, you have guys leading up to a selection still lifting, 3, I forget what it is in the final phase. Maybe it is only 2, but 3 times a week. It's like, yeah, but
well, there's also a lot of other volume in there.
Yes.
And they're at that point.
Yeah, that's not it.
Yeah, they're like professional fitness people at that point. Like that's their whole job is to be fit. So like they have the time and space in their schedule and in their training schedule to be able to do that. So I think that's also something that's important to keep in mind. We're not talking about somebody with a 9 to 5. No. It's like it's not at all the same. So their whole life is prepping for that selection at that point. So they have a lot of room to take on different training volume.
There are not many circumstances where I'd be like, you need 2-a-days, but if you want to get to these types of things and do as well as you can, like,
and it also depends on like some people, they don't need that much lifting when it comes to that. Like,
well, I'm not saying that, but
no, I'm not saying that, but like where the individualization would come in is like some people need to stop lifting.
Yes.
When it comes, as much when it gets to that point. So,
and that's where, not today, because it will be very long, especially if we started now at the 30-some minute mark. But I want to do an episode here soon on the whole hypothetical, someone wants to get ready for, and we can speak in somewhat general terms of like a selection, say something that runs 2 weeks, a week, 2 weeks. And the whole thing of like, well, what should I do? Because one of the most, I don't know if I want to say the most common, but a common thing that I hear is like, well, we found your selection prep program and it's 13 weeks, and so based on when I'm starting, I was just going to run through it twice. And I'm like, no,
that's a peak
like,
program.
Yeah, like it's one of those things where like it works, but if you continue to try and do that,
it's going to put you in the trash can.
Yeah. And so just like to your point, like, well, what do you actually need? Because if someone were to come to us, 1 year, 2 years out and say, I want to come out for whatever selection, right? Obviously there'd be questions about, okay, well, what does it entail? What do you need to be able to do? But then it's like, where are you actually at? So like putting people through tests, and then based on those tests, having that information to say, well, you don't need, you're more than strong enough. Or like another, I'm sure, I don't think we've seen it as much, but we have seen it. There's someone where we're at right now that I would say is kind of in this camp of like, actually from an endurance standpoint, like you're a freak. Like I think that you could, it would make sense for you to spend some more time lifting and get stronger.
Absolutely.
But if we could have that individualized approach with people.
Yeah, because you have to look at what the components of work capacity are. Their movement quality, relative strength, aerobic power, and aerobic capacity. So it's like if your relative strength sucks, like everything costs you more. And so, yeah, get stronger.
Why do you say it in that order?
I just said it in the way that I remembered them.
Okay.
But movement quality first, for sure.
Yeah. But you just said aerobic capacity last, so I was like, interesting.
Aerobic capacity, then aerobic power. I would say, but movement quality first because, well, those, I just said, if you move like shit and you can't achieve positions, like everything's going to cost you more. Like you're just going to waste way more energy. So it's just going to be harder. And then relative strength, you know, like I said, the stronger you are, the less each movement costs you, relative to your body weight. And then aerobic capacity, like you almost can't do too much of it if you have the time for it, and you're staying almost can't do too much of it. And then you layer the ability to make your aerobic system work really fast on top of that. And like, that's what work capacity training is. So
this might be a dumb question. I'm just curious. You put relative strength before endurance, or would you put those on like a side by side?
I think they're side by side. I mean,
it's one of those things where like, if you are weak and have a high level of endurance,
like if you're weak, it's going to make a huge difference to get strong, you know? Yeah. And you kind of got to look at it. I often think about what would I want to do for a kid, you know? Like, let's say, like if obviously I think, you know, that I'm not going to be one of those asshole dads that like is just like makes his kid do all kinds of stupid bullshit. But like I was having a son or a daughter, like how would I approach it? And like, obviously it would be like giving them the biggest movement Rolodex as possible when they're a kid, like making sure they play, making sure they go climb trees, making sure they get outside. And then it's like, it would be, I think they'd be at this, like, I remember I got asked on a podcast one time, because I think they knew that I hate the, like, if you can only do one exercise for the rest of your life question. So I was like, that's a stupid fucking question. But there are stupid questions. I think there's no dumb questions. There are stupid fucking questions. But like, if you could only use a couple training modalities for the rest of your life, what would it be? And I said it would be lifting weights and aerobic capacity training. Like, if you did that, like, I don't think that's enough in a lot of circumstances for sure. But like, if you only did those two things, I think that would be, you'd be able to do most of what you want to do and do it pretty well. And so for like a kid,
especially if you were able to kind of hack the question and you were able to get aerobic power through other activities that you weren't considering training. So meaning, like, take the example of jiu-jitsu.
Sure.
It's like, from a training perspective, strength training and aerobic capacity, you're going to get your aerobic power from like your higher intensity rolls. Yeah. So you could hack that and be like, got it all.
Yeah, for sure. And so I would say they would sit on equal footing for me. Cause like, if you not like, obviously I don't think everybody's a blank slate. There are no tabula rasas, what it means blank slate.
Great band.
Yeah. Is it band?
Yeah. Like, no one, go look it up on Spotify. Yeah.
It's a term from philosophy. And, now I'm blanking on which philosopher said it. He believed that everybody was a blank slate, which is, we know that's not true. Anyway, but relatively, like, so I take it back to, when I think about that kind of stuff, I take it back to like, well, where would you start with a kid? And like, it would be, you know, movement Rolodex, give them as much different varied movement as you possibly can. And adults still need that too. And then it would be, I think, strength and like just aerobic stuff. out would be the places that I would go. Because like if you look at, not everybody gets this because not everybody's from the areas that we're from, but you remember like farm boys just had a different access to things than everybody else did because they're working all the time. And really, what is it? Strength and aerobic. Like
yes, and a lot of what they're doing carries,
tossing hay bales, moving all day long.
So rotational power, carries, constant, just work.
They had to do shit, and so they were always just had a different level of strength and could do things that other kids couldn't do.
Yeah.
Because they just had to work, So it's really, the kids just need to work. I'm going to put my kid in a coal mine and say,
get a farm.
I wouldn't be opposed.
It'd be awesome.
I would not be opposed to that. But yeah, that's I don't know. We kind of got off track.
I don't think it's totally off track because I think we were good on I just wanted to cover that strength stuff and just for 1 second to go more on this.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, there's not that many categories. Like, no. It's not any more complicated than that. And then it's just like where you find the variety is just like within, extensive strength or intensive strength. Like there's, you can do clusters, you can do just straight sets, you can do things like that. But it's not.
I wrote a book on this stuff.
Yeah, you did. It wasn't very good, but you did. You did write it. Yeah, and that's so. It's just like there's not that many categories. It's just knowing when to apply them is the thing. So,
just two things. One, I was saying I didn't look at the full thing that Jason Brown did on that. So I'm also not saying that he doesn't talk about these things in his programming playbook. I have not gone through the whole thing. There's certain things I've gone in there, be like, oh, I want to look at this, and I'll go in and reference stuff. It might be mentioned in there somewhere. So number one, just that. If someone's like, no, I've gone through it and it's there. Awesome. That's cool. The second thing is, just for 1 second to go back to what you were saying about like the kid stuff, is I don't know about you when you're out there, but I get asked that stuff a lot by team guys.
Oh, really?
And that's why like a handful have brought their kids out here to get assessed, where I'm like, hey, do an assessment. I can give you some like basic stuff, but I tell all of them, because they'll be like, what should they be doing? I'm like, play. Yeah. Like, they're like, well, they're doing that. I'm like, yeah, but like, and so I'll be like, you know what? And I pull up, I'm like, most of those guys are like, I'm not on social media. I'm like, cool. Like, there's got to be a way that you can just, I'm like, go follow Jeremy Frisch.
Yeah, I think
go look at Jeremy's stuff.
It's almost like, especially in an area like this, it's not what should your kids be doing. It's what shouldn't they be doing.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, man, I get it. Like, we have access to so much shit here, and it's awesome, and kids can do so many things, but sometimes they just need to not fucking do anything. And also,
well, what do you mean not do anything?
Like, I think kids are overscheduled a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
Overscheduled. Yeah. Like, sometimes they just need to go play.
Yeah.
And it needs it needs to be not organized in any kind of way, shape, or form. They just need to go play with their friends, and they need to fight, and they need to climb trees, and they need to figure out shit socially, and they need to figure out their bodies, and they just need to go do shit. And I think that everybody has, like, they're going from this practice to that practice, and they're playing two different sports at the same time. And it's like, first of all, you're going to get to the point, their kids, they won't want to do it because, like, they won't have the same love and they won't have the same level of autonomy for it because it's not a choice anymore, And it burns kids out, and it also just like, just takes the joy out of things. And I think that that's stupid. And it's like, I think a lot of people are thinking about the success of their kids, and I think people's hearts can be in the right place. I think there's also a lot of like vicarious living through fucking JV athletes that never really got to do anything. And it's like, motherfucker, like, yes, there's an aspect of training and dedication and things that you learn, but you learn that shit in like late middle school and high school, And I'll tell you what, like, I think I forget who I was talking to about this the other day. There is one person that I've known my entire life that was a professional athlete that made themselves a professional athlete. Everybody else, they're born. Like, they're born. And yes, you have the natural ability and you got to do something with it, right? My high school English teacher, his favorite saying was, potential's like a bowl of piss. All that matters is what you do with it. Yeah. So, but it's like, it does matter what you do with it, but like, you'll know pretty fucking early if your kid's that good. And it's like, then it doesn't matter. Like, let them play, let them have fun. I just think it's so silly. It's like, and the thing is like, you look at it, the percentage of kids that actually even get to play in college at any level is so small. And then, so they have this chance to, let's say from age 6 to age 18, so you got 12 years to just enjoy playing sports and get the benefit from them that they can, and then move on with their lives, because they're not going to play in college, likely not. I mean, sure, there's going to be a bunch of kids that do, but likely not going to play in college. Enjoy it, and then like use it for what it's for, and have other things outside of their life that they can do and develop. And I don't know, I'm all for dedication. I'm all for getting good at things and stuff like that. But I think that giving kids space to just be kids is like super important. So
the only sport and not that a ton of kids have come through here, but the only sport of the kids that I've worked with where I have seen early specialization be the norm is freaking wrestling. Wrestlers just start at god-awful early ages.
A lot of them end up fucking hating it.
But I've also seen that from a handful through
kids,
here.
Those kids were going to be good anyway.
Yeah.
They were going to be, you know what I mean? Like, yes, you get to a point where you got to do it, but like, I don't know, man. Like, I think, I like a lot of people say that, effort over talent, but it's like, or like, commitment over talent. Sometimes that's fucking bullshit. Sometimes people are just better. And they're fucking born that way.
And look, that's not me saying.
Yeah, I know you're not saying anything, but I'm just saying.
I'm not saying specialize.
Yeah.
It's just an observation.
I know you're not.
I've had that conversation with a number of guys where I'm like, there's something about wrestling.
They just get obsessed. They just get obsessed with it, and it's like, at some level, yes, if you want to be a champion, you need to commit to a certain aspect, but it's not when you're fucking 7.
Maybe 16, 17.
It's like when you're starting to get maybe freshman in high school, like late middle school, early high school.
You think that early?
Like 8th grade.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't have to be your whole life, but like, I don't know, man. I
think it was just you look at Kansas City Chiefs just won the Super Bowl, and you look at like their starters and pretty much all of them multi-sport athletes. I mean, Patrick Mahomes was drafted in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
It's like
they're born.
And I mean, he played, I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe he played college baseball and football, and then pretty early on was like all in on football.
Yeah.
So
they're born, man. So let your kid do stuff. Be done, right? It's just like I see, like,
and if you want ideas, follow Jeremy.
But like the specialization with, especially baseball. Baseball's bad too. Where so you got kids playing.
Oh God,
you got kids playing baseball year round.
Yeah,
and it's like, yes, you're going to destroy their arm and you're going to destroy their backs and their hips because of all of that throwing and then all of that rotational stress and no break from it. And then like you make them worse movers because it's a very strict set of movement patterns instead of going and playing something else instead of that during part of the year where it's like basketball or something else. And if like your kid's a pitcher in baseball, like of course they're going to want him to play quarterback, but maybe let him play something else so he's not fucking throwing all the time. It is a different movement pattern, but still.
We talked to, I'm not going to say who, just, I don't know, Hippo, whatever, but like a doctor recently who was saying about, I think like 14-year-olds or whatever that he's seeing that have had Tommy John surgery. And like,
dude, I had a kid that had it when he was like 12 or 13 years old.
Jeez.
Because he was, I don't know, huge as a 12-year-old. So they threw him all the time and they taught him to throw junk. And it's like, yeah. And it like stole the kid's joy because he couldn't play baseball again until he was like 15 or 16. And then he ended up doing all right, but it was like, I don't know.
It's dumb.
It's so dumb. It's just and it's like, it's a fucking game.
Yeah.
It's a game. All right.
do we just end on that very like?
I got asked about it last night about like, do I watch sports? And I was like, oh God.
Oh no, here goes your.
No, I don't.
Where was I? Okay, so same thing with some of the team guys. One of them, because jiu-jitsu is going on right there, you can see it. And so one of the guys, he's never doing it. He's always like lifting whatever when it's going on. And I was like, You're not at all tempted to do that? And it comes full circle back to the wrestling thing we were just saying. He goes, no, not at all. He goes, and like, this is not a direct quote, but I'm going to try and do it as best I can. He goes, those of us that like actually wrestled, like he pointed at one of the guys on the floor. I can tell you who it was later. He was like he wrestled like Division I. Like he has no interest in doing that. Like he's like, he got that out of his system, and he can still mop the floor with people with that. Like he doesn't need, he's not trying to, whatever, get something like in his older age that he didn't get when he was a kid. And he's basically saying the same thing for me, man. Like I've spent more than enough time on the mats. Like I'm good. And it was just kind of cracking me up because he was like pointing, and they can hear him. He's like pointing at guys, like making fun of them. But then he mentioned someone who is the best grappler that's come through there. He's like, but then you have freaks like this guy who Division I wrestler, black belt in jiu-jitsu, and like a moment you want to go, yeah, I'll go roll. You know what I mean? So it's like, then there's guys like that, and it's like,
they just love to do it.
Yeah, it's still fun to them. So it's like, at the end of the day, like, if it's fun, cool.
Well, there's a difference between playing sports and watching sports too. Like,
well, this was my, like, it was similar to your watching sports, but him just being like, no, I got that out of my system but it'd be like someone playing all the memes you see that make fun of the what's the adult football leagues called, like the
the semi-pro stuff.
Yeah, and it's like a picture of just some like Joe Schmo like walking home with his football gear, like in his 40s, and it's like,
to me it's like, I'm gonna sound like a dick, but like it's fucking embarrassing. It's like, move on with your life, man. Like I got asked to play in like flag football leagues and stuff when I first moved.
I think it could be fun,
but it's just like, no. And here's why I didn't want to do it. It could be a lot of fun, and that's the thing. It could be a servant, and I'm not disparaging people that enjoy doing this, but then there's always these motherfuckers that were like JV in high school and never got, and they like go out and they turn this into this serious goddamn thing. It's like, man, it's like we're just hanging out and playing a game, So I don't get it. I'm probably done. I'm going to start sounding like a really big dickhead if we keep talking. We should stop.
So to close this out, don't invite you to any
I'm not
rec
fun.
sport
I'm not
leagues.
fun. No.
Just
leave me out.
Don't hit you with any condiments. Don't invite you to any rec sport leagues. Don't you dare talk about reptiles.
Hate them.
Except turtles. We went on turtles.
It's a turtles.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I'll come. Like if there's a party, I'll watch a football game.
Last thing, because you just said the turtles thing, and you said something earlier that I don't know what it was, but have you seen? There's a cable company called Spectrum.
I've seen their vans, I think.
Okay, have you seen? They were at like a college, and they were doing like, the guy has like a clipboard. He's trying to get kids to like set up their cable, but obviously the kid did it on purpose because they had a camera and they filmed it like from afar.
I think I know where this is going.
the kid goes up, and the guy's saying different things, and he's like, you think I could have it? And the guy's like, well, if you give me like your zip code or whatever, like I could tell you like if we have it in your area. He's like, you can tell if I'm on the spectrum by the area where I live. Like, just go on. And it took them both a minute to get on the same page. And then the guy was like,
come on, man.
It was so good. All right. I think we're done.
I'm going to go.